What's up, guys and girls, and welcome back to Exotic Gaming. Today we have a starting guide to 7 Days to Die. Your perks, your weapons, what to loot, best POIs to explore, all of it to set you up for future success and time without incident within Navis game or your random gen world. I'll put timestamps down in the description if you want to reference back to anything, and let's get started. Now, if you're just starting off to the game, I would recommend default settings. However, if you want less of a grind and you've played the game before, you could increase some player block damage to reduce the grind of the game when mining or breaking through buildings. If you're struggling within the game with finding resources and getting infected, you could also reduce the airdrop time, and this will help you get anti-infection medication and some early game supplies. Now, the blood moon count matters more late game when you're getting spawned with a lot of zombies on Horde Nights, so I wouldn't really mess with this until Horde Nights late game are getting too easy. Spawning into the world, you will be without clothing and weapons, but it will be relatively safe in your immediate surroundings. Take this time to loot nearby, and remember the game gives you a newbie coat for the first 5 levels. This reduces water, food, and stamina usage. Now do your beginner quests until it tells you to meet the trader. At this point you should have 4 free skill points from these quests. Sexual Tyrannosaurus is one of the perks I highly recommend developing. Stamina is one of the hardest things to manage early game, and a lot of times it will wind up killing you if you run out of it. So Sexual Tyrannosaurus should help you with the grind of getting resources while also keeping you alive longer in combat. Next, I would recommend a melee weapon perk. I personally really love Pummel Pete because it's easy to craft and hit zombies with. Going into Javelin Master can also be good if you want something with a little bit more range, and it can also be thrown with a power attack. Just always keep 2 on your hotbar in case you lose one. An overall tip is just to pick skills in a major category you want to develop in the future. For instance, if you want to be good with a rifle late game, then you probably want to start with spears early game. That way you won't be wasting points in a base attribute that you don't want any other skills in. What perks should you avoid? I wouldn't take Animal Tracker, Pack Mule, or Lucky Looter. All of these may seem great, but in reality, it isn't true. Animal Tracker is hard to use and find trails for. The game's animal population makes it hard in practicality, and in most biomes, it might not be applicable, especially late game when farming and such take over. Pack Mule sounds great, but getting a larger inventory is way too easy with mods within the game that I wouldn't waste skill points on it. You can also store so much loot in vehicles and containers throughout the game that you don't need it. Just craft yourself some pocket mods for early game if you really want to. And by mid game, when you're finding triple pocket mods, you're going to be thanking me later that you didn't waste points in Pack Mule. And then we have Lucky Looter, which has been debated forever on the forums and even on YouTube itself. But here are the facts in Alpha 20. Your loot is based on loot stage, and check this in your stats panel. Loot stage is equal to your level, with bonuses applied after. Game stage affects the zombies that you find, and is not related to loot stage anymore. Biomes that really affect loot stage are the snow biome and the wasteland biome. Cities and town also have an effect, although small. Lucky Looter gives you a base 5% increase at perk level 1, and at perk level 2, a 10% increase. Early game, when your loot stage is already really low, this is not helpful mathematically. The loot in 7 Days to Die is in a 4-tier system. Tier 0 and 1 are what you are going to find early game based on this graph. Mid-game, it could be useful to level into Lucky Looter to push your loot stage higher than the zombie game stage and make life a little easier, but when you're just starting out the game, don't go into Lucky Looter. Now make your way to the trader marked on the compass/map, gathering up any supplies you come across. Once at the trader, search his compound. If you're lucky, you might find some schematics for workstations and some ammo. You want to search the whole compound. Often you can find schematics and books in the trader's building itself. After some searching around, talk to the trader and sell any goods you don't need. The currency within the game is called dukes, while paper money can be broken down to just paper. It is, however, worth selling to the trader because it is worth more than the money itself if you sell it. These dukes are very important for buying goods from the trader and vending machines, and for late game brass collection because they can be melted down, so always save your dukes. Next, ask for a job from the trader. Ideally, you want a buried supply quest that is nearby-ish. These are easy to do and will contain some early game food to get your first day started. Keep in mind these can take some time to dig up and search for, so plan your day accordingly later in the game. Late game, better tiered buried quests can contain food and gun mods, which will help immensely in your search for better weapons. What should you be looking for at the trader? Keep an eye out for skill books, food, cheap building supplies, handy mods for guns or tools. And sometimes the trader will have raw goods for construction like concrete that are very cheap. He also has a category called a secret stash. Don't forget to check this every time you go. Keep saving your dukes for some ranged weapons or workstation schematics. Eventually, you might even save up enough money for vehicles later in the game. While doing these quests for the trader, keep an eye out for medium-sized buildings that could be used as a base later on. Make note of where they are and then keep going on. Make sure if you clear a building for a quest from the trader that you start the quest at the quest location marker. If you don't do this, the zombies inside will respawn along with the loot. You'll have to fight them all over again. Although this could be used as a tactic to get extra loot. Use it wisely. Something to keep in mind is if you complete 7 quests for the trader, he will give you a bicycle as a reward, along with some other items. He will then direct you to another trader that is nearby to give you more quests. Questing is a great way to go if you're new to the game and you want some help progressing throughout the world. It gives you the lay of the land and helps you find some POIs to turn into your base or get some good loot from. Hopefully by this point you have found a wrench and you can use this to break down items throughout the world and use it for building items at workstations or helping fortify your base later on. Cars are one of the handiest things to break down with the wrench, and they give you a variety of loot like engines and batteries, brass. So always be on the lookout for breaking down these vehicles when you can, but only when your inventory allows you to. The perk salvage operations can help with getting more out of the wrench when breaking down items. In late game or mid game, it is highly recommended that you take it if you want to build up a large supply of materials. Some other tips to keep in mind while exploring is to keep a healing item, some water, a weapon, and a frame block on your hotbar. All of these may come in handy if you find yourself in a pinch among many of the traps in the game. Medical items that you may find useful are painkillers, which cure concussions and restore health immediately. Bandages will stop bleeding. Honey can cure minor infections as well, so keep an eye out for tree stumps that can sometimes have honey within it. Splints can fix your broken leg if you fall into a trap or off your horde base. Food can increase health, which can be permanently damaged if you are high on hunger. Just look at the effect of everything you consume in the game and keep an eye on your health and stamina. Some things hurt you, some things give you perks, some things can infect you. Just watch out. Another tip to keep in mind is as you level up, your stamina and health bar will go up based on the level that you are. Finally, try to craft yourself some pipe guns as soon as you can with glue, pipes, and wood. Pipes can be found or harvested with the wrench from toilets or sinks. Glue is often found in trash inside or outside of a building, so always search through the garbage. Putting mods onto your pipe guns will give you special benefits while also boosting base damage by 10% each mod, no matter the mod. If guns aren't your thing, then consider sticking with archery as well. The beginner quest already made you craft one, so you might as well use it. And a good way to use archery is by sneaking, because a sneak attack does 3.5 times more damage baseline. So if you hit a zombie in the head with a good bow, you might just kill it outright. It all depends on how you want to skill up your character, early or mid game, and I can speak from experience that late game archery can still be valuable if you get the right character build, weapons, and skill books for it. What's cool about this game is there's a lot of different ways to build up your character or skill up your character, defend your horde base with javelins, bombs, and rifles, or you can use stealth and archery and move from town to town, bypassing horde knights altogether. Most players, however, will want to develop a base of some sort eventually. If you're just starting out to the game, most players will want to take over a sturdy POI as their first early game horde base, while perhaps building up a more stable horde base somewhere else while you defend the POI early game. Build up your materials for a long-term horde base while patching up the POI that you're living in as much as you can with as little resource usage as possible. To do this, you need to take advantage of some 7 days to die zombie pathing mechanisms. All zombies within the game are pretty simple-minded and take the path of least resistance to get to the player. If they can't get to the player, they will attack structures that support the player and keep the player above them or below them. Apparently zombies have a degree in building design. Next, I'll show you some simple designs that I recommend and that a lot of players could use very simply early game. First, one of the easiest base designs is the bunker. A player can get this done in a day of work, but it won't last that long and leaves you open to getting hit on accident by zombies. It is ideal, however, for early game because it is very easy to make and it saves ammo because you spend most of your time just melee attacking the zombies. Next, we have the maze base type. This base needs a lot of player engagement with the hatches, but it has tons of potential for expansion and for late game use. Keep 2 hatches up and slaughter zombies as they approach you from the front. Just don't forget to retreat as they destroy the hatches, putting up more as you go. The trick is to manage them slowly but efficiently, and as the packs get bigger, the hallways will get more full. Even when the zombies come in packs, they will funnel right to you, which is often the best way to deal with them. Finally, the tower base. This base lets you shoot down on zombies if you want to avoid being hit, or you can funnel them up the stairs to the bridge and shoot them in the head as they come at you in a relatively easy fashion. Make sure you place bars over your head in case birds attack, which can be annoying as hell as the Horde Knights come. This base's strength is the fact that you can distribute the zombies in 2 different ways, depending on where you're standing usually. I guess you could say it divides the hordes up, which is often another good way to deal with them, because the biggest strength of zombies is when they come at you in huge numbers. Now those are just some basic base designs that you can incorporate into a base of your own. Some general tips for base design include having a fallback position in case you are overrun at your main defensive point. Always try to have an escape route in case you are overrun completely out the back of the base. Some people prefer keeping their main loot away from the base, which is also a good idea. And don't forget to place your bedroll down in the POI if you are living there. If you don't do this, sleeper zombies may spawn and bring in more friends. On an average day, stay at home at night and go adventuring in the daylight. Zombies are way faster during dark hours. This basically means dig yourself a mining shaft near your base just like it's Minecraft and start searching for iron and other goods. Night is also a good time to organize your loot and build up your base's defenses, because you can't really be doing much else at this point. Be careful with your mining, by the way, and try not to mine too close to your base directly. This game does have structural integrity, and if you dig too much under your base might collapse. A good tip for this is to look out when you're building for a red marker around the frame block. This will tell you when an item is going to basically collapse upon itself and bring down potentially other structures as well. Around your base, try not to have too much fire or light going out of it. If it gets too hot around your base, a screamer zombie may appear and start summoning a lot of zombies to attack your base. It's a good idea to run your forges when you leave the base to go adventuring, and that way the zombies won't spawn until you come back. If mining under your base, this will also create heat, surprisingly enough, so if you sneak, this heat creation will be cut in half. During the day, go do quests and search for supplies. The trader's loot restocks every 3 days after day 4, so this is when you should check out for new items to purchase from him. Be wary, however, though, because anything you sold to him will also be gone after this 4-day window. A perk to help you with this interaction is Better Barter. This makes getting items from the trader ridiculously easy and cheap, but if you are finding the game a little difficult, it's a solid strategy, especially after perk level 3, where you can get better items from the secret stash, which is already pretty loaded the way it is. On your way back home from quests and looting, keep an eye out for airdrops. These happen every 3 days on default and contain helpful supplies. I suggest looking for them especially once you have a means of transport. Then you can get to them very quickly, while also transporting what they have back to your base. While you're out exploring POIs, look for traps and mines. Many players fall victim to these exploding in their faces when they're exploring POIs. Also keep an eye out for broken floor tiles and anything that looks like it could be suspicious. The fun pimps love to trick players with surprise zombies and surprise explosions, so watch out. Now let's talk a little bit about character builds. As you progress through the game by leveling up and exploring, think of how you want to develop your character into the mid-late game. Do you want to be a heavy armor, sword-swinging badass, or an archer from the shadows? People often refer to these character builds as the broad stat name. For instance, a popular YouTuber named Primate is doing an intellect build right now as a series. But there are builds for strength, perception, and you name it. The general category probably has a skill build people have talked about. As a new player, I would stick with the strength and intellect build to take advantage of a lot of their OP perks that we've talked about already. But try to do something different if you're finding the game a little bit too easy. Broaden your horizons and maybe become an archer when you're usually a sword fighter. Or go into perception and be a crazy marksman who loves to blow shit up. If you ever want to replace your skill points as well, you can visit the trader and buy Grandpa's Forgetter Elixir for 60,000 dukes. So think a lot about your choices as you level throughout the game. 60,000 dukes is a lot of money to be blowing on a misplaced skill point. You made it to Horde Night. Your base is ready and you got your guns ready. The first Horde Night has 2 waves you must defeat. One starts at 2200 and the next one starts when the first wave is defeated or at midnight, whichever comes first. Have your supplies nearby in a container ready to be used, and keep some building repair items on your character. Late game, this container and the repair supplies could come in a lot of handy when stuff starts blowing up everywhere. Have a plan for how you want to deal with the hordes as they come at your base. Always try to repair the walls as you go about defeating zombies. Try to conserve as much ammo as you can with meleeing zombies instead of shooting them when applicable. Always aim for the head and try to survive as long as you can. The goal late game is pretty much to last the night out rather than kill the whole entire horde. If you survive the night, check for structural damage to the building's key points and loot the dead before they despawn. Try to analyze what worked for your base and what didn't work. The main goal of early Horde Nights is to really get your base structurally sound and the main concepts working correctly to what you want to do. Late game, it's harder to really come up with a strategy without everything just getting destroyed if you didn't have a solid base plan. A horde base in general should be under constant improvement as the game progresses, especially when demolishers and exploding zombies start becoming a problem. What I'll do is constantly give you guys your guides, your tips, tricks, and cinematic playthroughs for 7 days to die. Want a video on a specific topic? Let me know. Subscribe to the channel and join the Discord for a community server as well. Become a part of this community and let me know what you want to see, what you want to do, what you like about the content. I appreciate any support.